Hello, good afternoon. Quickly before I get into my presentation, I just wanted to note I did create a hypothetical situation. So it's still the same situation, but I just put some numbers in. So when I built the T account in the journal entries, there were actual data entries there, numerical values. So then when I would go into readjust for the $350,000 inventory discrepancy, the missing inventory, it makes more sense. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. Without further ado, here we go. All right, well, thank you all for attending this meeting. Today we're going to be discussing a recent inventory discrepancy that significantly impacted our financial forecasting. So we have an individual on our team, Parsionius. He's responsible for managing purchasing of materials. This includes the metals, chemicals, and plastics that go into creating our products. As I mentioned before, we noticed a discrepancy in the cost of materials in our inventory. So due to this finding, we are going to go into some of the information that we have, some of the adjustments that we had to make, and ways that we could prevent future occurrences of this, or at least we can spot this sooner. Okay, so on your screen here, let me adjust this. This is what a typical journal and T account entry looks like prior to our audit that discovered the missing inventory. So on your left here we have a journal entry, and then on our right here we have our T account. Our T account reflects the information that goes into our journal entry here and sums it all up. So here we'll see that in the event of our inventory account, each time that we purchase materials, we make a debit to that account and we credit our cost of goods sold. Under the cost of goods sold account, we have to make a debit to our inventory consumption, adding to our inventory. And in our accounts of payable, every time that we make a purchase that's a non-cash purchase that we're making on credit, we have to credit our accounts payable. A very important thing to spot here while we're on our T account for our normal transactions that we had, our typical journal entries. Under the matching principle, the sum of our debts should equal the sum of our credits. But as we see here, there's a $500,000 difference between the debit and our credits. This here is a pretty big indicator that something's off. It doesn't necessarily identify the issue, but it notifies us that there's an issue here. That this, in and of itself, should prompt us to investigate further. On your screen now, you'll notice the adjusted entries on our journal and our T accounts. And those adjustments are highlighted in red. So we'll see that here our cost of goods sold that we noticed goes in as a debit to our cost of goods sold account, and it goes in as a credit to our inventory. And on our T account, we can see this here. We added an additional $350,000 credit to our inventory account, and we made an additional debit to our cost of goods sold account. And down here you'll notice, according to the matching principle, our sum of our debits matches or equals the sum of our credits. This indicates that we have that this information here is for the most part accurate. So now on to our recommendations. First and foremost, this find presents the issue that maybe our quarterly audits aren't good enough, that we may want to increase the regularity of our audits. I suggest monthly, as recommended by the SIN 7 2024 best practices. Again, additionally, as I discussed earlier, we need to start paying closer attention to changes in cost of goods and gross margins. We can do that, as I mentioned, by the matching principle, that any time that our debit and our credits on those accounts are not equal, that in and of itself suggests to us that there's a problem in our accounting. We can also check into our gross margins, and the reason being is because it relies on two variables. And one of these variables presented as an issue presented in this current problem that we're seeing here, and that's our cost of goods sold. The other variable is sales, and the gross margins can be determined by taking our sales and subtracting our cost of goods sold and dividing by our sales. So with that being said, if we start noticing a unrecognized or unpredicted loss in gross margins, if they're declining, then we can take a look at a decrease in our sales, right? We can see if there's any variables that are affecting sales that could account for this problem. And additionally, we can consider items that influence cost of goods sold, such as our inventory. And in this case, it was actually our inventory. So if we were noticing, if we paid closer attention to our gross margins and in our T accounts on the matching principle, we would have been able to catch this sooner. So that's exactly what I suggest, is that we pay closer attention to these metrics. In addition, we increase the scale of our audits, the regularity of our audits. With that being said, that is my presentation. Thank you all for attending.